All right, hello there and happy Thursday. I am hopping on here today to introduce your very first project. Typically, I don't make videos for normal lessons or lectures just because I feel like a lot of the stuff that we do in the writing course is very self-explanatory. It's grammar, it can all be done just by viewing notes and doing the assignment. But when it comes to writing, the instructions are a little bit more specific, and there are certain things that I do expect of you when you write a project. So this is our very first project. It is your personal narrative project. And this slideshow, you'll have access to it throughout the project and throughout the session. So you can kind of use this as your guide to writing the essay if you would like. So if we review from yesterday when we talked about what a narrative essay is in general, these are the type of essays where you are telling stories to your reader. The sole purpose of this is to make a point to your readers and help them to understand why you want to tell your story and why it's important. And in a narrative essay, you are really guiding your reader through your story just by telling it. You're not trying to criticize anything, you're not trying to persuade them of anything. There's no technical argument or points being made. What you're really doing here is telling your own story the way that you experienced it and the way that you see it. And that's what makes this different than writing other academic papers where it gets to be a little bit more technical. We write narratives because you get to let your voice be heard, right? It's very important to express your opinion and your views and your beliefs to the world. And you do that best through storytelling because, like we learned with that, The Danger of a Single Story YouTube video, your perspective, telling your story is the very most important thing that you can offer the world because you are giving that first person point of view, which is the truth. And it really is all about storytelling here. The human brain retains 70% of information through stories and 95% through emotions. And that is why I'm an English teacher, because this is what people are attracted to. People love storytelling, people love hearing stories. This is what makes life so personal, right? We get to hear each other's perspectives, and that is what you're going to be doing for this project. Here's the important part. We will be writing a short story, so like a fictional short story. We're going to be writing that as our next project. So you're going to be making up characters, making up a plot. That will happen. That is also a version of a narrative essay, but that is not the narrative essay that we're doing this time around. Your narrative for this project is a personal narrative. The minute it becomes fictional, you are stepping out of the bounds of it being a personal narrative and inching into fantasy fiction story, and that's not what we're doing. So the basic characteristics, when we're thinking about essentially what it has to contain, it is informal. So you're not writing like you're writing to the President of the United States. You're writing like you are telling the story to anybody who wants to read it. So this story should read the same to a kindergartner as it does to an elderly person, right? Everybody can read your story and understand it. It's written in first person because you are the storyteller. It is with a purpose to inform, not to argue or teach. Have to remember that. We are just telling our audience our story. You are describing a person, a scene, or an event in details and in chronological order. Like I said, if you were walking up to someone and they said, "What is your story?" You're going to tell your story exactly how it happened to inform that person. You are giving them all the details they will need to be immersed into your story. Again, it is non-fictional, tells about an actual experience, and it includes the elements of a story but follows the structure of an essay. And that's where we have to kind of get a little more detailed. So if we talk about what we talked about yesterday, the story elements, we did a lot with plot lines and the plot of short stories and videos and things like that. Obviously, since you're telling a story, it has to follow the narrative arc. So you're going to have your exposition, you're going to have your climax, falling action, resolution, all of those things. You were telling a story, but it is within an essay. So if we talk about essay structure, we're inching away from story structure and talking about the structure of the essay itself. What your essay is going to look like on paper. Yes, there is a story within the essay, but it is still an essay, and you are still writing it in the 5-paragraph essay format. So you have your introduction, you're going to have a hook, draw your reader in because it's still an essay. You're going to have a thesis statement because, again, it is still an essay, right? You're going to tell your reader what your story is going to be about and how it affected you in one sentence. And then you're going to give a brief description or background of what you're going to be talking about. Then in your 3 body paragraphs, that's where we're going to see your actual story being told. So the story within the essay is all going to happen in these 3 paragraphs here. And then, of course, like with any other essay, you have to wrap it up somehow. So you're going to write a conclusion, which is also going to contain your resolution. So you're going to say, this is how this experience that I had was eventually solved. This is how all the loose ends were tied up. And then, most importantly, you are explaining kind of the moral of the story, what you learned, how it affected you. This is how you're really going to make that connection with your audience. Okay, I was just telling a story. Now I'm talking to you and telling you how this story affected me or why it's important to share. This diagram I found is really cool. It kind of shows exactly what is supposed to go into each element of this essay. So your introduction has your hook, thesis, description of why it matters. Each body paragraph is kind of summarized here, and then your conclusion. So if you ever want to know what is supposed to go in each paragraph, this is a really great slide to refer back to. And last but not least, we have to talk about language, because narrative essays are, like I said, written very informally, because you're talking about your own personal experience or thoughts on a topic. And you really want to draw your reader in, but you want to still keep it fairly informal in the way that you are telling the story. So how to do that is to use descriptive language, right? So you are using lots of adjectives and adverbs. Your sentences aren't too long, but if they're going to be long, make sure that you have nice descriptive words in there. You're going to use power words, so you're avoiding passive voice and weak adverbs, and trying to find stronger nouns and verbs at any point that you can. These are always better than like the vague modifiers. And then last, you're going to be using sensory words, so really immersing your reader into the story by making them see what you saw, smell what you smelled, hear what you heard. All of those great things are wonderful for narrative essays. So again, please refer back to this slideshow if you are ever wondering what sort of things are supposed to go into the essay. Also, there is the assignment sheet, which has the due dates for specific parts of the essay. So for our specific project, you are going to go to the assignment sheet and you are going to hit this link here. In general, what you are writing about is a life experience that you have had and how this experience has affected you in the long run. I purposely made this prompt very vague because I want you to really kind of do what you want with it. And you could do this by going to this list of topics that I've linked in here. These are thought-provoking narrative prompts because I want this to be a meaningful piece of writing. I don't want it to just be some elementary level, story and reflection. I want you guys to really dig deep and write about something that means something to you and that you want to share. So there's lots of options here for things that you can write about and nice little descriptions of what can go into that. So choose one of these things. Personal failure is always a good one, an accident that you were in, a success story, some sort of unresolved experience and how that has affected you today. All of these are really great. So once you choose one of these, that will be your topic. And then obviously there's going to be a whole bunch of other steps that go into this, but in general, the essay will have that same structure that I mentioned in the slideshow. You're going to have one paragraph, that's your introduction, 3 body paragraphs, 2 are going to be the story, 1 is going to be a reflection, and then your conclusion where you're doing all that typical essay stuff, restating your thesis, summarizing your main points, yada, yada. And like I said, all the specific requirements are listed in that slideshow that I just went through with you. When it comes to due dates, tomorrow you will have a brainstorming assignment and the topic choice are going to be due. So all of that will be linked in the Friday folder. It's going to be you just basically creating a timeline of significant events that have happened in your life in order to get thinking about what you might want to talk about. And then once you find one that really means something to you, kind of try to figure out which topic choice from the link above it fits into. Your outline is going to be due at the end of the day Monday, and I will link that in the Monday folder next week. Your rough draft is going to be due Wednesday the 17th. As you can see, that's super close to the outline. It's like this because this class goes so fast, you just have to use all day to write, basically. And that is okay. I believe that you are perfectly capable of producing a rough draft in a day or two. And on this day, when the rough draft is due, you will have a pre-scheduled Zoom conference with me where I will give you feedback and we'll go over any needed revisions that you will have to make going forward into the final draft, which will be due Friday, June 19th. All right. So that is basically everything for introducing the project. Today you are doing a grading or close reading, as I like to call it, of a sample essay. So that is obviously linked in the Thursday folder as well. You both have a copy, and you're going to be reading through a sample personal narrative and doing some highlighting and marking up of the text. And that's pretty much it. Obviously, I will guide you more throughout the project, but for now, I think you guys are pretty much set up to finish up the week, and we will delve into it some more on Monday. All right, thanks, guys.